fellow guitar players, welcome to lesson 17, I believe it is. We're going to do a couple of things today. We're going to carry on with our second stage of our note learning. We did the A notes last time and we're going to do the C notes this time. Then we're going to have a look at the key of G. This is going to give you a whole new key to play in. And we'll look at how to practice changing the chords in that key. That's it for today really, so let's get on with it. Well, this all refers back to lesson 7 when we looked at the natural notes on the bass string A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It starts at E of course, and then in subsequent lessons after 7 we looked at those same notes on all the other strings, but really all we have to remember is that the intervals are the same whatever note we start from, that there are 2 steps, 2 frets or 2 semitones, 2 notes, however you like to look at it, between each A, B, C, D, E, F, G, apart from E to F is only 1 step and B to C is only 1 step, all the rest are 2 steps. So you need to understand all that. If you haven't seen those videos, you need to check them out. Now in the last lesson, we looked at where all the A notes are. So we're moving on now. This is a second stage of our note learning. This is very important, very empowering, something we need to do. But instead of learning them in sequence, we learned A, we're not going to go on to B because it's too close. We're going to go a little bit further away and we're going to learn where all the C notes are today. So just grab your guitar and we'll follow the same method of doing things, which you remember, we play the note, we say the note, and we play it up and down 3 times, and we keep doing that until we don't make a mistake, and then that programs it in. It becomes like a muscle memory exercise rather than just a memorizing exercise. All right, now we should know the notes on the bass string by now. As I say, go back to lesson 7 if you don't. But the intervals are E, F, G, end of our musical alphabet, start again A, B, and 1 to C. So it's the 8th fret. So we play that and we say C. Now on the 5th string, it's A open, so B, 2 to B, 1 to C. But you can think of it like this: if you were playing a C chord, where would your finger be on that bass note in your C chord? And it's the 3rd fret. So that's C, play that and say C. The next string is D. Instead of going all the way up D, E, F, G and so on, if we know the open string is D, then we also know the 12th fret is D, that's the octave. So just go down 2, D, down 2 to C. So it's the 10th fret. On the G string, we've got G, A, B and C, so it's the 5th fret. On the 2nd string, again, you can think where are your fingers on the C chord, and this is the C, another C note that's in the C chord. It's B and 1 to C, another way of thinking of it. So it's 1st fret. And the top string is obviously the same as the bass string since they're both open E's, and that's the 8th fret again. So once you've got up there, you want to go back down again and you want to say C. Play it and say it, C, 3rd string C, 4th string C, 5th string C, and bass string C. As I said, go up and down 3 times, saying it, playing it, feeling it with your fingers, you're programming it in, it becomes muscle memory. All right, so these are the 6 main chords in the key of G. We're omitting the diminished chord. We said we'd leave those out till later, but these are the 6 main chords that you'll encounter, especially the top 4 if you're playing any song in the key of G. Now it's the same chart that we had for the key of C in lesson 6 if you want to go back and check that out. You will need to copy it down yourself, make one for yourself on the computer, draw it out. You'll need this information to refer to. And as with every new key that we're going to look at, you'll already know 3 of the chords from the previous key. So you know a C chord, an E minor chord and an A minor chord already. So there are only 3 new chords to learn. Let's have a look at what they are. So not surprisingly, the first chord we need to learn is the G chord itself. And the shape of this is radically different from any of the chords that we've done before. There's a big finger stretch in the middle. That's what it looks like. Copy it down, write it down, and we'll have a look at that just now. So for our G chord, we're going to need to put our first finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, just before the 2nd fret. Good finger position, remember. The middle finger needs to go on the bass string. You can see on the chart there, the 3rd fret. But now comes the difficulty. We've got to stretch our ring finger right across to the top string, the thinnest string, still at the same fret, at the 3rd fret. Now, if you try to address that a little bit too square on, it's going to be awkward. So you might need to get your elbow out a little bit and just let your hand turn so that it enables that finger to stretch over there. And, you know, unless you can do the old live long and prosper thing, this could take a little bit of practice just to get your fingers loosened up. Find your own comfortable position with it. Now, we played all 6 strings. The middle, the 4th, 3rd and 2nd string are just played open. Now the next chord is a very important chord in this key. It's quite often played just as a D, but we're going to follow the pattern of playing it as a 7th, which is kind of technically correct, a bit like that we played the G 7th chord rather than G in the key of C. So we'll have a look at that. So for the D7 chord, we start with our first finger on the 2nd string, just behind the 1st fret. And then we want to put these 2 fingers on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and the 2nd fret of the top string. So we've got a little triangle going on here. Now you can see that the 4th string's played open, and I've got a question mark over the 5th string, which you'll know from the earlier lessons, the chords in the key of C, which was in lesson 6. If you see a question mark, it means try to avoid playing that string, but if you do play it, don't worry about it, it won't be entirely out of tune. So you want your bass note to be this D, it is a D7 chord, and you don't want your bass note to be A, but you definitely avoiding there's a cross over, because that's not at all in tune with the D7 chord. So we want to avoid the bass string. Play the top 4 strings ideally, or the top 5 strings. That's a D7 chord. And finally we've got our B minor chord. Now there are a lot of ways of playing a B minor chord. The standard one is with a bar chord, which is going to be far too difficult and challenging at the moment. So this is the easiest and most basic way of playing a B minor, and actually I do use it quite a lot. It's a nice open airy chord. Sounds good in some situations. It all depends on the song. So we'll use this form of B minor for now. We'll look at the other ways of playing it in later lessons, but let's check that one out. All right, start with the first finger again on the 2nd fret of the top string. Then we just go up a fret and down a string. So 3rd fret of the 2nd string and 4th fret of the 3rd string. So we've got our little line here, very similar to the shapes that we used to in the key of C with C, F, G7 and so forth. And we can play the 4th string in this one. But we want to try and avoid playing the 5th string and the bass string. They're not really in tune with this chord, but we have this lovely minor B minor chord. Well, it would be best to refer back to lesson 5 first, with how to play chords cleanly if you haven't seen that one, and lesson 8, how to change chords. Now, this is all the possible changes in the key of G, apart from those ones between the 3 chords that you already know, which we practiced in lesson 8 and lesson 9. There was some good tips there of how to practice changing chords. I'll go over that very quickly with you, but these are all the changes that you need to practice. Just take a few each time you have a practice session, and use the suggestions in lesson 8 and 9. Now remember the rules that we discussed in lesson 8 and some tips that we had in lesson 9 as well, that when we're changing chords, we were in the key of C, we wanted to change to G7, we kept these 2 fingers still and we moved that finger, these were our anchor point, and then we anchored that one while we moved the other 2. So we didn't move all 3 fingers at once, of course that's the ultimate aim, but to start with we move 1 and 2 and then 1 and 2 again. Sometimes it's only necessary to make one movement, as we found out with the C to A minor chord, where these 2 fingers are common to both chords, and this one moves from the 5th string to the 3rd string. That one has to slide back a little bit at the same time, and then we practice going back and forward between them. And the important thing is to practice with your eyes closed. Don't forget this tip. Practice once you've worked out which fingers are going to do what, and you've had a little practice with your eyes open, close your eyes and practice back and forward between the chords without looking. It's not just without looking, you have to have your eyes actually closed so that you cut out the visual part of your brain and your attention goes into your fingertips, and that's how we build muscle memory. And we also had a little exercise where we just threw our fingers at the chord shapes as fast as anybody could read them out. We weren't going to get them clean, but it's going to produce a mental map. This is all in lessons 8 and 9. And we're going to do the same thing with all those chords that you've just seen. Hopefully you've copied down which changes are required. Now there's a particular chord sequence that you'll meet a lot with songs in the key of G, and it's this one: G to E minor to C to D7 and back to G again, of course. And so I'll just go over that one with you in a little bit more detail, just to show you the sort of things you need to be thinking about, which finger does what, and how to get through these changes as quickly and as cleanly as possible. Now we start with our G chord, and the next chord is E minor. So remember the rules. First thing to do is to look for common fingers, common notes, and you'll see that this is an E minor chord here. So this 2nd fret of the 5th string is common to both chords. That's in the G chord and it's in the E minor chord. So rather than play our E minor like that, which we often did, if you remember in the key of C, we're going to play it with these 2 fingers, so we don't have to change our whole hand round. We can just simply slide this 1st finger back and tuck that middle finger underneath it. Very quick and simple change. Lose the 1st finger off the top string, of course. There's an E minor chord, and when we want to go back, the same thing. We just slide up, stretch out, and put the ring finger down. So we want to go back and forward between those, and remember again, once you've got the hang of the change, then you want to close your eyes and don't look somewhere else. Actually close your eyes so that your attention goes into your fingertips. That's how to build muscle memory. The next change we want to look at is the change to the C chord. Now again, we want to look at common fingers or common notes, and we can see that this 2nd fret of the 4th string is in the E minor chord, and it's also in the C chord. So basically we're just going to keep this middle finger where it is, and we're going to let the other 2 fingers sort of orbit around it. You can see that finger remains anchored there, and the other 2 fingers go into the C chord position. And again, practice that back and forward and practice it with your eyes closed too. So now we've got our G chord. Slide the first finger, tuck the middle finger underneath. The E minor chord, pivot round the middle finger. And the next change will be to the D7 chord. So again, we want to look for any common fingers, and there is one. It's this first finger, and that's in the C chord, and it's in the D7th chord, that first fret of the second string. So very simple change. All we have to do is anchor that first finger where it is. Don't lift it, don't move it in any way. Let that finger, middle finger, go across one string, and this one has to overtake 1, 2, 3, 4 strings. It's got a long way to travel, and then we end up in the D7 position. And the same when we go back, anchor the first finger. This finger has to overtake that one on the way back to the C. So again, a relatively easy change in just one motion. And finally, we need to get back to our G chord. Now here we've got a problem because none of the fingers are common to the G chord. There's none of those notes are in the G chord. So we're going to use what's called a sliding pivot. And we haven't met this before, but basically show you what this finger does and then show you the other two separately. This finger needs to slide from the second fret of the top string to the third fret and doesn't lose contact. We don't lift it up and put it down. We just relax the pressure on it a little bit, slide it, and then press down again. Don't lose contact with the string. That means that your brain knows where your fingers are because you're feeling and touching that string. And these other two fingers, which are in this position, do what we used to see in the key when we're looking at the key of C. They fly in formation. In other words, they're in this sort of shape relative to each other. One string below, on adjacent strings, one fret below, and they have to go across from the second and third string to the fourth and fifth string and one fret up. Now that's made a lot easier by the fact that we're pivoting on this finger here. So if I'll just lift these up and exaggerate the movement a little bit, as we slide, we just reach across, keeping those two fingers in the same shape. You see that? So it's actually quite a quick change. It's all in one movement. Slide and reach out, keeping those two fingers bound together in that shape. On adjacent strings, one fret higher. So we can practice that. So the whole sequence would go from the G string, anchor the first finger, slide it back to the E minor chord, anchor the middle finger, pivot round it to the C chord, anchor the first finger, move across to the D7 chord, slide and reach back to the G chord. That's a good little practice, and it's something that you'll meet a lot when you're playing songs in the key of G. Now again, just go through that chart we had of all the possible chord changes in the key of G and apply those principles. Look for common fingers or common notes between one chord and another. If there aren't any, then look to move one finger and then the other two, or two fingers and then the other one. But main thing is don't let go of the fretboard and practice with your eyes closed. And this will build your muscle memory, and you'll soon be very proficient at playing in this key too. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there for today. There's lots to get on with. And don't forget, if you're having difficulty finding songs we talked about in lesson 15, getting them into a key that you can actually sing and play them in, feel free to get in touch, and I'll help you on an individual basis. But we do want to be practicing these chord changes in the context of songs. It's much more fun to learn exactly the same finger scales. It's more motivating too. And once you've got the chords in this new key of G sorted out, then by all means try finding songs that you can sing and play in that key too. Okay, so keep up the good work, guys. See you next time.